Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with horse racing and football selections for Saturday the 2nd of May. Well, a quick recap on yesterday, Friday. 12 to 1 winners, St Verd. Jack Sparrow ran a decent race, finished 4th, shown nothing of recent outings. The cheap piece has definitely made an improvement. Unfortunately, it came 4th, only paying out on first 3. And I think we had a couple more placed at okay prices. But yeah, St Verd ran a very nice race, straight to the front. It won by, 6 lengths? I don't know in the end, but yeah. So let me get on to Saturday. So, very interesting day's racing. It's one of those where in the old days you used to get the racing posts out and lose yourself for a few hours because it's extremely competitive. There's so many different angles, and there were so many times throughout the day when you were scratching your head thinking and kicking yourself thinking, oh, I know I should have backed that, or I went off that. But I'll tell you what, I do like the selections today, but the problem is I liked them yesterday yesterday was a losing day. So let me get into it. So in the end, it wouldn't let me put a Goliath on. So I've had a 5 pence each way Super Hinds and 50p each way singles on all these selections. And it comes to £19 in total. And the football selections will be in the description and the first comment from around 10 a.m. onwards. So let me get into it. So the first selection is Brian in the 145 at Newmarket. So this horse has ran at Newmarket before last year, and it won by 4 and something lengths. All I'm looking for is that it handles the track. So Brian, this year so far, it ran in a race at Newbury where it was drawn 7. And it was kind of interfered with quite a lot, as in like there were a lot of bad decisions by the jockey. He went middle, then he came towards the end. He came near side, and it was favouring far side, and then he switched to far side. And in the end, it wasn't an unlucky loser, not by any stretch, but it should have finished closer. And I do believe 3 of those rivals take each other on, or take Brian on again. I think Brian, because it's drawn amongst those horses today, I think it's got a much better chance of finishing amongst them. The favourite is actually odds on. It's currently 4 to 5, apparently, according to the betting. It absolutely hacked up on its seasonal reappearance, the favourite did, and I'm guessing they're expecting the same again. However, I think Brian, at a very big price, it's 28 to 1. It wasn't beaten that far. I think it was beaten 5 lengths in total. 4 lengths by Addison Gray and the one it's called Cool something. I can't remember what it's called now. Cool Angel, is it? So I think due to the jockey switching it from far side, near side and all that kind of stuff, I think Brian can finish closer. It's got David Egan on board. I think he's a decent jockey, but he never seems to ride a decent race for me. So yeah, that's the first selection. 25 to 1, paying first 4. It's only 10 runners. The next selection is The Lost King in the 220 at Newmarket. I've gone for this because I think it ran in a very warm race at Newcastle last time. Plenty of winners, plenty of horses in form that was in that race, and this one raced up with the pace throughout, and there was an awful lot of horses that finished in the placings that came from behind. So I think this horse did very well to finish as close as it did after racing prominent last time, and I think a better run or a decent run is on the cards. I do believe it's trained by Andrew Baldwin and has got a very powerful team out today. The next selection is Flight Plan in the 240 at Thirsk, and this is the Thirsk Hunt Cup. So this horse won this race last year it was drawn something like 10 or 11. It was definitely drawn wide. It had to come over. To be honest, it wasn't really taken on for the lead last year. Hopefully it isn't taken on for the lead again. However, it did, when I say the horse won the race cosily, it's the most uncosily cosily you can get, as in it looked like it was going to be challenged, and then when it showed you the side on view, it actually wasn't quite as hard pressed as what you thought. However, Flight Plan is off a £6 lower mark this time around, and they've actually campaigned it different. It's actually spent the winter in Dubai, at Maiden. It hasn't done a great deal, but it seems to have dropped in the weights accordingly. So I think this horse could well be in much better condition, because last year it had one run, which was an okay run, before it won this race last year. It's been quite busy in Maidan throughout the winter, so I'm thinking it's going to strip very fit. So hopefully it goes to the front and wins again. It's currently about 7-1. The next selection is, I don't know quite an how you say, I've heard all different Kino in the 255 at Newmarket. I think it's it is in decent form. It ran one of its better races when it came third in a very small field race at Newcastle. However, it was carrying 10 stone 1 that day. It's a very good horse, this is. It seems to like these sprint trips, and I think it's got a very good chance. And I think round about 7 or 8-1, decent price, paying first 4, and I just think it's got a decent chance. Right then. Joe Arangio Bay A, whatever that is, in the 310 at Utoxeter. Right, this race is absolutely dreadful. The fancied horses haven't been showing a great deal. Some of them have never even jumped over fences before. This horse hasn't got decent form. However, I do like the fact that Gavin Sheehan is on board, and I do think this horse is slightly better than it's shown so far. One of the good things about this horse is it's normally up with the leaders. I think hopefully it should stay out of trouble. It's got Gavin Sheehan on board, which I think is a very good jockey. And this horse has got 10 stone 6. Gavin Sheehan's minimum weight this year has been 10 stone 2. So I don't think he likes to do 10 stone 6 too often. But it's 14-1. And there's a Dan Skelton horse in the race. And it's shown nothing so far, but it could show something today. Can't remember what the horse is called, but it's in the red colours, the same colours as Grey Dawning, which is quite interesting. But it's got the Dan Skelton horse has got a first-time tongue strap on. Who knows how it's going to perform? But this horse I'm backing, it's not a decent horse, but it will be up with the pace, and hopefully, I actually think this will be a very well spread out field, because I think this will be a race where there's a lot of horses up with the pace that basically aren't very good. The field will stretch out. The fancied horses are towards the rear. They may not even show, because even the fancied horses have not got decent form. I think there's one that is relatively consistent over chase fences. And I just think the front runners will gradually fall apart. Hopefully this horse stays up there, and they're paying first 4, and it's currently 14-1. Apparently it's been 20s, but I'm not quite so sure about that. The next selection is in the Betfred 2000 Guineas, and the horse is called Needle Match in the 335 at Newmarket. They are paying first 4. I've seen this horse. I've looked at the replays on Racing TV. It ran over 6.5 furlong at Newbury in dreadful ground. It travelled pretty well. It nudged it out, and it was actually quite, I won't say badly hampered, but kind of intimidated. The second horse drifted across the track that day, and Needle Match on its debut showed enough resolution. It was very resolute in keeping its head down and actually trying to win. It didn't look hard pressed. It just looked extremely inconvenienced by the second horse that day. It made its reappearance recently, and it came something like 4th or 5th. I think it was 4th. A lot of those horses that it ran behind have got form lines that mixes up with a lot of these horses that run today. They've also got form lines with the horse that sadly passed away by Andrew Baldwin. What's it called? Guido, something like that. But unfortunately, that horse passed away. But there was a lot of horses in that race that had got form round about that horse. I thought this horse was certainly not unlucky, but eye-catching in the way that it was only nudged out and it ran powerfully through to line. I think they campaigned this horse on its reappearance over 7 furlongs, because they're normally going to travel fast. Well, they do travel faster over 7 furlongs than they do a mile. But I think this horse is absolutely crying out for a mile, even a stiff mile. Obviously, Newbury 7 furlong it's a flat, fair 7 furlong. It's pretty quick, yeah. But the Newmarket mile with its uphill finish is a stiff finish for the mile, and I think this will bring out the best in this needle match. And I do think it's got a very good chance. It's currently, I believe, 14-1, and they're paying first 4. William Haggis is in cracking form, and the Saeed Sahel colours are not unfamiliar with these Group 1 races. And look again, it's a Saeed Sahel horse. It's Comical Point in the 4 at Newmarket, paying first 4. So this horse caught my eye when it ran last time. I actually had a bet off of channel because it was like midweek, and I think I had a couple of quid each way on a horse called Tadij. Just got pipped near the finish. But this horse, Comical Point, it ran a very odd race. It ran wide at Wolverhampton, and you can't do that. And there was no need for it to really run as wide as what it did. It lost ground, and then it made ground again. And I just think it didn't handle Wolverhampton one bit, but it still ran a very promising race, and I think it can show much better form on this straight track. And that's it. So what I've had is I've had a 5p each way Super Hinds and 50p each way singles. So let me go through quickly. Brian, I think, has got very interesting big price chance. The Lost King should run its race about 13-2, 7-1. Flight Plan, obvious chance, won the race last year. Kino, similar to the Lost King, should run its race, but it's competitive. Joe Arengio Baye, or whatever that's called. Bit of a stab in the dark, but it's a big price with a bit of a chance with a decent jockey on board. Needle match needs to improve, but I think it will do. Will it be enough? I don't know. Comical Point should be suited by the straight track. And that's it. So the football selections will be in the description and the first comment below. So I wish you the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.